Welcome back to Sipa's Spimmer Garage. In this video we are swapping out this US-made GM slush box that is X5 has and replacing that with the glorious European-made ZF 8-speed transmission. I'm not going to brief this swap more than that. If you want to know more about these ZF 8-speed swaps, you can watch my older E36 swap video here. Or is it here? I don't know. Anyway, in that I'm explaining why these ZF 8-speed transmissions are so good compared to the older ones. But before we start working on this swap, remember to like this video down here. I really hate when YouTubers say that like and subscribe these videos, but I'm reminding to like these videos because it's absolutely the best way you can support this channel. It doesn't cost anything, but it helps this channel a lot. And here's our victim. This is a GM5L50. I think, yeah, this has the 50. The E46 and other, they have the little bit smaller 40. But anyways, this isn't like anything strong. As you can see, this has been leaking for some time. There's oil everywhere here. Well, not horrible amount, but still. This actually worked quite well. So yeah, I think this can be good spare transmission for some run. So I will try to get this out without breaking it. And yeah, nothing special here. I'm just wondering how to remove this. There's the front drive shaft. I have tried to get that out, but it doesn't come out without removing the front diff. I don't want to do that if it's not needed. So yeah, I think we'll just loosen up the transmission from the engine and then take out those subframe bolts and try to slide this back and hope that this drive shaft also comes with that. So let's see how this goes.
Tää oli kyllä jäänyt kiristämättä. Tää poltti oli kyllä jäänyt kiristämättä. on tämmönenkin niin.
Ehkä näytetään, että tuolla on tuo yläpuolella, onko se starting, se tappi mikä nyt on kiinni. Onko se tuo kohta näyttää, kato tiukalta. Niin näyttää. No niin. Nyt siellä. Tämä puoli missä on. Turbiini taas toikin. Ui. No niin. Oliko se nyt? Ja saa pikkusen. No. Nyt varovasti, katoppa. Sano miten tehdään. No niin, nyt pitäis täällä vastaan. Kuule saatana, kato. Vähän se on etupaino. Onko se? No niin. Vähän täällä. Ei oo mitään täällä. Ei oo mitään täällä.
I'm not sure if I mentioned in the beginning that there was this oil leak that I was hoping that is from the transmission, but it actually isn't. It seems to be from the main seal here that I did replace when I did rebuild this engine. But I don't know what has happened because it seems that it's now a little bit crooked. This side is higher up than this side, and you may be able to see that it's like missing a piece. Like that's okay, but there is a piece missing from the seal, so yeah, you can clearly see that it's leaking from this. I didn't see this coming. Let's hope that we have some spare seals in the garage or somewhere, because I really want to finish this time. Let's see if we have something here. We have some leftover seal kits here. Doesn't seem promising. Oh! Yes! Brand new crank seal. Yeah, just about what I need. This is the transmission that I will use for this FAB. This is from F10 535iX. X meaning that this has the X-Drive 4-wheel drive system, and this is the HHP 45X that it says here. So yeah, this comes from the car that has the X-Drive, and because my X5 it's the newer one that has the X-Drive system, this bolt pattern for the transfer cage and everything here, these should match up. So as far as I know, this should be bolt on deal. I'm not 100% sure, but let's see. I hope it is. The older X5s that are not facelift, they have the different mechanical, basically, that comes from the E30 or that era cars. Anyways, the mechanical transfer case, and it has the round bolt pattern here. So for those cars, you need some kind of adapter for the transfer case to fit those. I have seen those adapters, so those are there if needed, but yeah, in this case this should be quite bolt on deal. Of course this length could be different, but I did measure with the tape measurement, and from here to here, at least based on the tape measurements, the old GM transmission and this one, these are like within couple of millimeters, so that should make this really easy, because then we don't need to mess up with the drive shafts or anything. And you probably remember from my E36 video that this bolts onto the engine quite well. These big bolts here, these line up perfectly. Then I think one of these smaller ones will line up. And then these upper bolts here, these need to be grind down a little bit, so because like here you can see that this hole is a little bit offset here. So this needs to be widened inside here, and same one here. So this needs to go inside here, and it's then bolt onto the engine itself. The starter doesn't fit, I have the adapter for that coming, and I have the torque converter here. This is standard N55 deal. Then to actually make this fit to the crank, here's the N54 6 HP flex plate. This is the older version that has the 8 bolts for the crank and 6 bolts for the torque converter, and this one has the 6 bolts, so this fits well to the car with this. Unfortunately, these 8-bolt crank ones, these seem to be quite rare nowadays. You only see the 6-bolt ones. So yeah, those don't fit directly to the M50 engines. But I have seen people modifying these so that they weld the 6 holes. Or well, I think from the 6 you need to weld 4 and then drill out new holes. You can use the 2 of those. So those 6-bolt ones can be modified for M50, but yeah, it's of course better to have that 8-bolt one. You can still get this as new from BMW, but these were like 700 euros or something ridiculous. But yeah, this is the transmission that we will use. This looked really mint one in the pictures that the wrecker had, but now it doesn't look. There's this kind of wrecker graffitis and everything here, and I think this has been maybe sitting outside because there's this corrosion that wasn't in the pictures, but I really hope that the corrosion has not gone inside. Well, even here there's no corrosion, so yeah, I think this should be fine. Of course, I don't know how long this has been driven, but usually these HSP, they outlast the engines that they are adjusted quite well, so yeah. You usually get like double the lifetime of this transmission than the engine actually have, so yeah, I'm not really worried that this is not in good condition. Of course, this is a wrecker, but anything can happen, but we'll see if this works or not.
Mennäkö käsiin puriksi?
Mä en tiedä, katsotaan millä tämä mennään.
Aika kovaa.
Ei tämä käsin kyllä ole.
Nyt se on killissä.
Otetaan toinen palikka. Ihan hyvä idea laittaa palikkaan juo aina kun matkaa.
Jos sä pölliä.
At this point we need the starter adapter. I ordered a few of these from the German guy. These are a little bit different than the previous one that I used for my Etherstick. So that was the aluminum billet part. These are laser cut steel, so these are quite much cheaper. I did tell him to send 3 of these, but there seems to be 4, but yeah, I'm fine with that. Yeah. What? Oh, let me open this little bit more. So yeah, this was a really nice surprise here. I didn't know that he will include anything extra here, but yeah, thank you for this. So yeah, now we can continue with the install and maybe have something to drink when we are finished. Yeah, these are a little bit heavy, but yeah, it takes 5, so doesn't really matter much.
Kato, tämä on...
Niin joo, tässä on että tämä juttu. Joo.
Se on pitempi bulli.
Muistelisin, että täällä on 2 reikää näille. Tuo menee tuohon. Kyllä vähän kiertoa, mikä tässä on. Käytkö putsaamaan? Niin ja katoppa. Tässä. Katoppa. Tässä oli se justiinsa ero, että tuossa loukassa on tämä kierre täällä. Tässä ei oo. Mut sitten tämä tulee käyttöön tässä näin.
Sieltä on lähtenyt ne kierteet mukaan.
Niin on. Kaksi reikää sopisi sitten.
Varmaan lähtee nyt jopa kiertämään. Mä nyt pistän niin tiukkaan. Rikaat.
Eikä tuo mene touhuspullo tuonne rakkaan.
Ei se mut mene.
Katsii kun se on jo tuohonkin. Tää taas vähän totta.
Pitää vähän mirroita pois.
Tapa mittasi. Meylläkö petti meidät? Vähän oli ehkä tilli vielä.
No niin! Nyt kun kohistat sen. Nyt katsottu, onko siinä pienempi reikä. No niin, kattoo! Hatana. Tämä tuli hyvin leikattu, kun se oli justiinsa taasusti.
Vaikka vähän kierros sanoi.
Ja se sinne junttaan tuossa.
Mä ainakaan pois sieltä ottelusta. Kaikki siihen.
Saattaa olla. Luulisin, että se on tullut. Paljonko nyt on? 100?
Häh?
100 nyt.
En tiedä. Koitan muistella tätä starttihommaa, että oliko tässä vielä joku, mitä mä en muista. No joku oli väärinpäin. Mutta joo, tilaa sieltä vähän loppuun kesken.
Nyt on vähän lihankin. Älä vittu kun näitä silmiä, kun en näe yhtään niistä.
Tauraan tuota sitteristä löysätään hinnasta. Tiedätkö mitä meiltä unohtui?
Se peltilevy.
Se turbiini.
Ja peltilevy.
Peltilevy on, mutta turbiini.
Tarviiko sen?
Tarviin.
Se kiinni.
Vittu. Musta se ei ole se. Nyt se loksaa.
Uusi yritys.
Uusi yritys.
Voiko pumppu?
Pumppaaminen.
Ja sohis sillä lampilla.
Sohis sillä lampilla.
Kyllä.
Suottoja.
Suotta. Otetaanko tämä härveesti?
No melkein muuten oikea pulttikin tuolla. Ei vittu todellakaan.
Kivien aikaa se piti tämäkin.
Joo, näköjään. Meni vissiin tuosta öljypaistakin läpi, vaan se ei haittaa.
Meni läpi.
Häh?
Eikä. Kyllä ainakin näytti, että vituut. Eikö kukkurulla se on?
I once again bought this ZF service kit for the transmission that comes with the oil pan and the oils. So yeah, here's the oil pan and the oils are there. There's 8 liters of oil, and last time I learned that that's not quite enough, so I bought extra one here. There's of course these kits from other manufacturers, but ZF is of course the original one because it's ZF transmission, and this is actually one of the cheapest ones, almost the cheapest one, at least where I can get this. So yeah, it doesn't make sense to get the other aftermarket pans ones. But yeah, let's drop out the leaking old oil pan and then replace with the new one, and then we can fill up the transmission. Niin, mulla on uudet tuolla noin. Kyllä vaihtaa ne ja sitten liimata nuo jarrut. Mä otan tuon tuohon.
Mitä ne perkele läpi?
On. Tuo valo on tuolla. No. And now only thing left to do is install the controller for the HHP and do the wiring for that. For the controller I will of course use the CANTCU. Thanks Kenneth for supporting this project too. I think this is absolutely the best option for this kind of project because this will be really easy to do with the CANTCU and this will work like factory car. But anyways, this is the wiring diagram from the CANTCU website on the wiki section. This is for the first generation HHP that I have, and there's a lot of different things that I did explain on the previous video, but this wiring will be much simpler than the previous one. So basically we only need this section here, so we have the transmission itself, the shifter and the OPD connector. I haven't actually used the OPD connector at all in my E36 build, so I won't be putting it here at all. I think you really only need this if you want to connect the transmission with XHP or something like that, but I won't be doing that, so I don't need that. So basically we need this section here, like this. And last time I did do this from the scratch wiring, but in this case I did buy wiring harness from the car that already has the HHP, so this will be much easier and cheaper like that. Then of course we need this section here, so we have the ground and the power supply, and then we need the CAN bus from the ECU. And these two things, these are already in the car, so this will be really easy. So here is some wiring diagrams from the new TIIS. So here is the CAN bus wiring, so you can see that we have the ECU in the middle here, then it connects to the ABS and DC model, then the steering angle sensor and the instrument cluster, and in this end we can see that there's the HES transmission control unit. So basically we will replace the original TCU with this CANTCU here. So for that we need the CAN bus wires, these ones here on the CANTCU wiring diagram. So we can see that these should be on the X7004 pins 36 and 37, so we can get those directly from the original TCU connector. Then down here I have the power section. So this is the X7001 connector in the original TCU, and we can see that the ground connects to the pins 4, 5 and 6 in that, so we can get the ground from there. Then we can see that this is powered through this fuse here, and then another fuse here, and this comes from the relay. This relay here, and it says that this is the F4, and we can see here's the F4 here. It comes from the DME relay that the DME controls through this wire here. So if we look at here on the CANTCU wiring diagram, we can see that this needs the time delay relay here. So now, because this relay here that powers the original TCU, this is controlled by the DME. This is basically the time delay relay already in the car. So we can just adjust the delay in the original ECU to keep this relay on long enough for the CANTCU. But again, the relay gets the output to the F4 that goes to the original TCU. So basically we need these pins 8 and 9 for the power for the CANTCU. So yeah, this will be really easy. Just these 3 pins here for the ground, these 2 pins for the plus 12 volts from the relay, and then these 2 CAN wires here. So basically 4 wires from the original car. I think I forgot to do the proper unboxing on the previous HHP swap on my E36, so let's do it now. So this is how you get the CANTCU if you order it directly from Kennet. If you order it from the reseller, it might be a bit different, but this is directly from the Kennet. Inside here we have some packing, and there is this nice chiller for your War Hero cans, some stickers. Oh, we have some corruption candy here too. Nice, the best ones. And this is the actual CANTCU package here. It looks like this, quite nice packaging. And here's the CANTCU itself. It's quite small and handy box like this. Oh, we have new kinds of stickers now. I didn't have these on the older one, and this seems to be even new version. So this, I think my older one was 1.6 and this is 1.7. I don't know the actual differences there. But anyways, then we have the connector for the CANTCU here. Then there's the USB cable. Then this nice one for the keys. I have been using mine quite a long time already. This one here for the E36. And then we have the pins for the connector, and then there's also these resistors These are the 120 ohm resistors that you can use for the CAN bus if you are building the wiring kit for yourself. But yeah, that's pretty much it what you get with the CANTCU. This is the wiring harness I have for this project. I think this came also from F10, I'm not sure which engine. This even seems to be from the extra version, but it seems that I will not use those. Anyways, where I need this connector and the wires that run between these connectors here. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I will just pin these to the CANTCU and wherever these need to be, and then rest can go. So I think we will now strip this wiring harness so that we are only left with the wires that we need, and then we can start pinning those. And I'm thinking that I will probably take the shifter wires out somewhere here and route those to the original shifter cable inside the car. So that will be most likely the easiest way to do the cables for the shifter.
Ei paljon jäänyt jäljelle.
This is now the shifter end of the harness. So in here I have terminated here. So these are the two CAN buses, the CAN 1 and CAN 2, and there's those termination resistors for those. And all these wires, these will now go to the shifter. So the two CAN buses plus 12 volts ground and then the wake up line. So yeah. All these need to go to the shifter. I still need to crimp the pins here, and then I can push this. I think I may need to leave this like this so that I can push to the hole for the cable. I don't know how big that is or small. But anyways, once this is in the car, I need to put on the connector and then wrap this somewhere and something like that. But yeah, this will go through the cable hole in the transmission tunnel. So in that way, this is really short and easy harness to do. So here's now the finished wiring harnesses. So this will be inside the ECU box. So here's the connector for the original TCU. You have the ground and the plus 12 volts there. Then we have the CAN 3 coming here. So that's all the things we need from the original TCU. Those go into the CAN TCU and also of course to here. Well, the CAN3 doesn't come here, it only goes to the CANTCU, and then from the CANTCU we have the CAN1 and CAN2, and then the wake up that go to this connector here. There will be this kind of diode connector here, but I first need to get this on the tight spot, and then put this diode connector here, and then another one here. This goes to the HHP connector, and then this goes to the shifter connector, and this has the terminators here for the shifter, and then of course there's the plus 12 volts and wake up and the 2 CAN buses. So actually this is quite simple wiring harness, and I think this will work fine like this, and actually will be quite easy to install. And yeah, the CAN1 and CAN2 terminator resistors are here, and then those are also terminated internally in the CANTCU, and then the CAN3, it's not terminated here, it's terminated in the car, but this kind of short loop, this should be fine here. The termination is somewhere here in the car, but I'm not 100% sure, but it should work like that, so let's try to put this in the car. CANTCU is now there, replacing the original TCU. I tried to find a place for this so that I can access the USB easily, but I think I will just leave the USB cable there permanently. In my E36 I have only needed to use the USB 2 times. When I'm first flashing the transmission and setting up the CANTCU, and then second time when flashing another software, so yeah, it's not really common that you need to use the USB, so I think I will just leave it here in the box, and I will just open this if I need to do something for the CANTCU. But yeah, I think I can now put this back here and connect everything on this box, and we can continue. It was impossible to film the installation, but all the wiring is now there, and this actually almost looks like nothing has been done. You can see the CANTCU is there, the wiring comes up here, and here's the original TC connector where I have the power and ground and the CAN bus there. It will probably live up here. I will zip tie here so that it doesn't vibrate, but I think that's fine. Then the new transmission wiring, it comes up here, and here's the Deutsch connector that I was talking about. The wiring from the transmission, it will come from that one there, and this will probably be somewhere here. But yeah, I think we need to now lift up the car and put the transmission and shifter end here, and then we can connect this, and yeah, and then this is ready to be tested. Transmission wiring is now there. You can see it coming here, and it goes here to the Deutsch connector, and everything is now connected. So I think I now will test the wiring that it works, and maybe flash the transmission, and I will then tidy up these places, because I don't want to tidy up everything here just to notice that something is wrong and I need to redo things. So let's make sure everything works now, and then I can tidy up everything where it belongs. I have now the latest version of the CANTCU configurator installed. Hopefully that grinding doesn't annoy you. But anyways, let's plug in the USB from the CANTCU. I need to turn on the power. Yes, we have a connection, so at least power is there. Yes, we will do update this. Let's do power cycle. Connected. Now we need to configure this. So here, transmission protocol. This is the HHP F-series first generation. Car ECU protocol. This is now bone stock X5, so we will select this one. And then this is not there yet. Shifter is there. Then we select this, we will use the shifter. Diff ratio, I know that this is 3.91, like that. We need to calculate the wheel size. So these are 255/50 R19 and 19. It's okay. Update. Okay, after cycling the power, we have the transmission and the ECU and the shifter. All those are green. We have CAN 1, CAN 2 and CAN 3 loads. Everything's okay. Yes, it's actually that cold here. Ignition on. Yeah, everything looks okay. So now we can check the transmission by diagnostics. Treat the. Now we need to of course flash the transmission because it's now locked. So we need to go here and CANTCU flasher. Yes. What? Okay. This one. Okay. We select transmission model. So this is the 45 and gasoline. Okay. Now this newest software that I have here, it will support this OM plus flash, but I will first try this with the OM one, so I will flash this one, so this will just unlock the transmission, so I will use this one. Yes. Okay, let's restart everything. Okay, everything looks fine. Let's go here. Yes, it's now unlocked. Diff is learned. That's okay. Let's read the fault codes. Clear. Read. Yes, I have now the transmission set to neutral mechanically, so I think that's what's the fault code there. I'm pretty sure, or well, at least that one. Let's see. Yeah, these tell me absolutely nothing, but those seem to be working. So I think now we need to start the engine, run it little while, because I did just fill up the oil pan in the transmission, and in the first start it will of course fill up everything in the transmission and the cooler, so the pan will get quite low. So I will run it little while and then turn off the car, and then I will fill up transmission, and then we can actually go through the gears and see if those work. But before that, I think we need to code the EWS module, because in these it's so that it only allows to crank the engine when it's on the park. Now, of course, because there's nothing here, there's only this F-series shifter. It doesn't know when it's on the park. So I need to code the EWS unit so that it will start the engine even when the transmission is not on park. I've now gone through all the gears from 1 to 8 and then the reverse. Now I just need to wait for the transmission warm up. It's now 18 degrees. I think it needs to be above 30 or 35 or something like that. So need to wait a little while until I can actually check the oil level. First test drive is now done. I did clock in a little bit over 100 kilometers driving from the garage to my home, and it worked absolutely perfectly, but there are still quite many loose ends that we need to tie up. First of all is the cluster. It did only show the gears up to 5. I think this cluster is capable to up to 6, so I need to code in the cluster to show the 6th at least. Then of course there's 7th and 8th, but this cannot show those. Then another thing is the shifter. I had the shifter hanging here just by the wires, and that was really annoying. Just by poor luck, it seems that this bezel here, it can hold this shifter in like this. It's actually quite solid here. I can use it actually. It still tends to get loose when I put this to drive, so I put this zip tie here. But of course, this is not the permanent solution. The problem here is that this is the older 2012 earlier version, and this is too tall. You can see that it's hitting everywhere here, and I can put the cover here, and also I should get this little bit lower so that I can push this in a little bit, and then I can use these kind of holders. So these are the prototypes that we had for the E36, and it looks like this should work at least little bit re-drilling for these holes. But I cannot use this for now because this is too forwards, and I cannot get this backwards because it's hitting here, so I need the lower version. So I need to buy the newer version of this shifter and then try to use these mounts to put it here, and after that I should be able to also put the cover here. So yeah, this is now a temporary solution. It seems to work, then I can drive the car, but I need to get the newer shifter for this. Then another thing, the power for the TCU and the transmission, it needs to be on like from 30 to 60 seconds for the adaptations to save on the transmission. For that we can use the ECU DME relay as I told earlier, but we need to now flash the ECU so that it keeps the power on long enough. I think the stock is like 8 seconds, so we need to change that. So let's turn on the car, and then we go to the MS4X flash R. Okay, now it already detected that it is MS43. I don't know what was with the BC. It was waiting for something that it changed the background, and then everything worked. So yeah, weird Windows 11 things, I think. So we'll do the particle read. Okay, we will save that. Now we can go to the Tuner Pro. We will select correct XDF. Then the pin. Then we search for this parameter. This should be 8 seconds, so let's put that to 45, like this. Save the binary. Now let's put on the power. We can flash that in. Okay, so we will select the flash section, we load the binary, this one, and partial bright. Yes, this is completely normal. There's no communication for the cluster when the flashing is going, but it shouldn't take long. Okay. Now it's off. Let's turn it on. Let's see what do we have. Fault codes. There's something, but let's clear these ones. Yeah, everything's clear. So now when I turn off the ignition, this should stay on for that 45 seconds. Yes, it's on the park. Okay, it now did save the adaptations and it should click. Oh yeah, and that was the 45 seconds. So yeah, that was enough. So it's now done. Let's finish up this shifter installation before we wrap up this video. This is the shifter that I had there. So this is the older before 2012 F10 shifter, I think so, yeah. And this is quite a bit taller than this newer one. So this is the post 2012 version. I was meaning to buy the F10 version of this newer shifter, but I did accidentally buy the F30 version, I think this is, yeah, I think so. So this seems to be the same as the F10 version, but this is a little bit shorter, but this is actually just good in this case because there's not much room back here, so this being shorter just makes this easier. And there's another thing. I have the adapter here that we have designed for the E36, and this is for the F10 shifter. This was for this taller version, but this has been cut down for the newer version. But anyways, as you can see that this fits here quite snugly, but this F30 and maybe F20 version, you can see that this is a little bit shorter, so there's some slack here. But as I said, that's a good thing because we need room here, and also these holes for the shifter, these are a little bit narrower in the X5 than in E36, so I did modify this shifter mount here, this one. So this is same as this one, little bit newer prototype, so I did just cut this here so that this is shorter and fits the F30 shifter like this. So this fits here quite perfectly, and also these holes line up in the car, so this is pretty much ready to put on the car. I just need to drill out these holes and put some screws here, but otherwise this will fit. Of course we need to make this fit on the car nicely, so we have this bezel here that goes on like this, and there should be the boot, this one here. So I need to take this apart so that I can remove this plastic here and then put on this boot here. I will then also paint these black because these are not in use anymore, these are in use. So yeah, let's take this apart. That's now there. It has been bolted down in the 3 places like that, and I did also put in the new connector, so the wiring is also there. So yeah, now I just need to put this bezel here. I'm a bit annoyed that the matte black paint that I had, it's actually satin black, so it's not quite the correct one here, but yeah, I think that's fine. So let's put this back together. And it looks like that. I think that's pretty much perfect. Yeah, like you cannot really tell that is that original for this car or not. Well, okay, this is like this here, and maybe the manual cover here would fit better that there's no this section here, but yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah, let's see that. Does it power on? Yeah. let's see that does everything work. So it's now park, drive, reverse, neutral, drive, sport, manual. Yeah, seems to work. Park. Yeah, that's perfect. So now this swap is finally totally done. Okay, it's now a couple of months after I did this swap, and I've done like 3,000 kilometers now, so I have pretty good idea how well this swap works. At first I did drive with that original software in the transmission. I think I forgot to put that even to comfort mode. It was in the Eco Pro mode, which isn't great, but it worked. But anyways, after that I did flash in the CANTCU OM Plus software, and I did change that default mode to comfort one. And now with the CANTCU OM Plus software and the transmission in the comfort mode, it's absolutely perfect. Like, this is the perfect daily that I have always wanted. It's so good that I haven't even needed to touch the drive mode here, so I always drive in the drive and the comfort mode because it just works perfectly. Like this is how the automatic transmission should work. It's really nice to drive because it feels so mechanical, so you have the actual mechanical feel between the engine and the car moving out, and not like with the GM slush box that it feels like there's a rubber band or something connecting the transmission and the engine. Also the shift points and everything, they feel really nice. I have no complaining about that, no need to change those. So everything is like perfect for a daily driver. Of course in the sport mode it's much more aggressive, but yeah, this is like really big and heavy car, so I haven't really need to go there. It works in the comfort mode and I'm happy with that. And of course all the original things work, like the 4x4 system, the gear display, the DSC button, the hill climb or downhill system, I don't know, whatever system is that. So everything works like this came from factory with this transmission. And the best thing in this swap is that it actually feels like the car just gained like 50 more horsepower and maybe 50 Nm more torque, because it feels so much faster now with this 8 HP than it ever felt with the GM slush box. Like, I really need to just feather the throttle. I don't need to like smash it all the time like I needed to do with the GM slush box. So yeah, it's much better in that regard. So it's only for that it's like worth doing this swap. Of course it's so much nicer to drive also. And then the third thing, I have had many questions about this, how's the fuel consumption with the 8 HP. Well, this is good car to compare that, because I only have done the transmission. Of course I did do the whole overhaul for the suspension, but that of course doesn't have any effect on the fuel consumption. But anyways, with the GM slush box last winter I was averaging like 14 liters per 100 kilometers usually. Then if I like really did like feather the throttle and everything, I did get like 13.6, which both isn't great, so it's actually quite horrible. But now I have seen like 12.5 to 11.7 liters per 100 kilometers, so that's huge improvement. That's like 2 liters roughly less fuel consumed per 100 kilometers. So yeah, now with the 8 HP this car is much nicer to drive, it's faster to drive, and it consumes less fuel. So yeah, there's like 3 big pluses for this swap. So it's quite no-brainer to do if you want to do this. There's no like downside. Of course, the downside is that this costs money. So that's second question that people have been asking quite a lot, so let's break it down. So here is Excel sheet that will give you rough estimate on how much this kind of 8 HP swap costs. So here's pretty much the minimum that you can probably expect, and here's the maximum one. Of course you can probably get this a little bit cheaper, and of course you can get a little bit more expensive, but this is like rough estimate. The most expensive part is the controller. So the CANTCU is the cheaper one. It's around 1100 euros watt free. So depending where you live, it can be more than that. And then the Turbolamec is the more expensive one. It's around 1700 euros here in Finland with the watt. So yeah, this is pretty much the range you can expect. Of course, then there is the Max ECU that can nowadays drive the HHP directly. So basically, if you have the Max ECU in your car, it's then free. But anyways, it is not suitable for this kind of swap only thing. Then of course is the HHP transmission. These HHP 45 are the cheaper end, especially on the all-wheel drive version. At least on the Baltic breakers, those seem to start from 250 euros. Then on the top end there is the HHP 70 and HHP 90, and those can go up to 2500 euros, roughly like that. Of course, depending where you buy, these can be a lot more than that, but this is pretty much the maximum that I can see on the Baltic breakers. So this is the range that you can pretty much expect. Then of course there's an adapter. You must always need some kind of adapter. So this my swap was the cheap end, so I only really needed the starter adapter that I paid 50 euros, and then there was the flex plate that was 150 euros, so 250 euros roughly with the shipping and everything. And then depending on your engine and the transmission and so on, these adapter sets, these can go up to 1500 euros roughly like that. Usually the adapters are like 400 to 500 euros, but this is pretty much again the range that you can expect. Then the wiring in this swap, I did go with the absolute cheapest way. So I did just buy the HHP wiring from the F10 from the Baltic Wreckers, and that was only 25 euros, so really cheap one. Of course I need to put some connectors and that kind of things. But those were all from AliExpress and really cheap, so I can link those down below. Then on the higher end is the really fancy mil-spec stuff. Like the normal plug-and-play wiring harnesses, those are from 350 to like 500 euros. But anyways, again, this is the range that you can expect. Then the cooling, this can be really cheap, so the adapter that I used, it was only 65 euros, and that's pretty much the only thing you need if your car, for example, has the 6 HP or the GM transmission in this case. But then this can get really expensive also. There's sets that have the fancy AN adapters and lines and everything, so those usually go up to 600 euros or so. But depending on your case, it's something between these numbers. Then of course you have all the random bits and pieces that you might need with this kind of swaps like bolts and everything. So I think in this project I paid like 30 euros of the converted bolts that I needed. Everything else I had. But in the E36 I did spend like 200 euros for the bolts only. Then of course you might need to buy some transmission cross members and drive shafts and so on. So yeah, even the 300 might be a little bit low. You can easily spend like 500 to 600 euros to all those parts. But anyways, this is pretty much the range that you can expect. So yeah, it's quite big range. You can maybe get a little bit cheaper than this one, and yeah, you can probably go higher than this one. But yeah, I would say like roughly it's like 3000 euros with the most setups. These kind of HHP 45 swaps for M54, these are the lower end. And then if you want the high power HHP 70 or HHP 90 with all the fancy adapters, everything, it will then get expensive. But yeah, this is everything for this video. I will probably continue these HHP videos on the springtime. We will most likely install paddless for my E36 and do some other things with the HHP in that car. But yeah, that's enough for this video.